we welcome back Richard Brown. Now, Richard Brown is a man who's had a major burden on his shoulders. Tomorrow morning around this time, it's the final countdown. He's the Development Director for Grand Central in Birmingham. Richard, how are you feeling? Are you biting the nails, or are you relaxed, or what?
Bit of both. It's going to be an interesting few hours now. A lot to do, but very exciting. It's a combination of a lot of work by a lot of people. Because in those last few hours, I mean, if I walked in there now, I would look around and think, it ain't going to be ready. Do you think that as well? No, we go here a lot. I think probably the weekend with the station was probably quite a similar feel. I think some people that would have experienced what was going on Saturday night and then through into Sunday realised that actually with a lot of people and lots of focus and organisation, you can finish a lot of things. And actually, things are finished at the last minute because you want it to be as good as it can be. It's all about customer experience and detail and getting it absolutely right. So have you been like a headmaster recently, walking around with a little pad and pen and looking at things and making notes? Yeah, I'll do that. I'll take the pen and the notes. I'm not sure about the headmaster thing, but yeah, a lot of walking, a lot of looking. It is about detail. That's kind of what we do. And just say presenting something which is going to be spectacular in the best possible way. It's all about detail. Because I suppose if you think about the big picture, there are bound to be the occasional screw missing, a little bit of paint missed or something like that, isn't there? Yeah, there will be. Hopefully no one will spot it. We're sort of detail freaks, but we keep going at it. So even during the day, probably not during the day, but the day after, we'll just go around and just make sure again that if there's anything we've missed, minor, we'll go and fix it. I'm trying to get a feel for this because you see bits of it while it's being constructed, you see images and things. So how big is Grand Central? Grand Central shopping area is 500,000 square feet. So it's about half the size of Bullring. But it's a round landing, as I call it. So when you get inside, and people have had a flavour of it from the station opening now, and you see inside the atrium. And it's just this 360 panorama, which is, I think, a first. I've never seen anything quite like it. And of course, being so closely allied to the station, it's a plus for both sides, isn't it? It's fantastic. I think it's pretty unique. We've got retail and shops in places like St Pancras and other stations like that. But actually having a shopping centre sit on what is now a really big train hub is a first. I heard some people the other day when we were talking to them in the street asking them, they said, but the shops are going to be the same as they are everywhere else. Is that a fair comment? That's quite harsh. The shops are what it's all about. Yes, we've created a fantastic building and lovely roof, but the shops bring it to life. And yes, there's some brands that people will recognise, but there'll be some brands that people won't recognise, and some brands brand new to Birmingham, which I think is really key here. And that you presumably were talking mostly about John Lewis here on? John Lewis is obviously the big anchor store, 250,000 square feet, hard to ignore really. But actually, I'm really excited also about some of the restaurants we're bringing in. Some are first time in Birmingham. It's nice to see them sort of morphing out of London and showing their wares. So I think that's going to be really exciting. I remember the last time we had this conversation about Birmingham becoming a big shopping place, because, dare I say this to a West Midlands audience, Manchester is well known for its shops. London is very well known for its shops. Birmingham hasn't been so much, has it, until the Bullring came in? Bullring, I think, changed it. That's 10, 11 years ago. And, things have moved on, the economy's changed. But actually, Grand Central coming along sat really well between Mailbox, which has had a change as well, an improvement. Obviously, the new Harvey Nichols has got lots of headlines. But it sits really well. And actually, I think, genuinely, it can start to rival and maybe exceed like Manchester and Glasgow in the rankings, and shopping centres are ranked. I hope it exceeds those. I think it will. You're going to be coming back to do your shopping, are you? It's kind of like become your second home, hasn't it? Yeah, it is. I've lived and worked here a long time ago, and then I disappeared off to London and came back really to do this project. And Yeah,
is
it
that
is.
part of the appeal coming back?
Yeah, it's because you knew what was going to happen. You knew you were going to change, not you, but there was going to be a big change in the shopping landscape. Plus all the other regeneration things going on. You mentioned Paradise Forum, you know, the old library, HS2 coming. The list goes on. It's a fantastic time.
Because you know, to be fair, Birmingham had got a bit of a tired look. It needed a revamp, didn't it? A big revamp.
Yeah, it did. And you know, the city have done a really positive thing by sort of promoting all those ambitions. You know, now we've got Smithfield being promoted, which is to the south of Bullring. Yeah, massive opportunity. It really is being put on the map. And I think people outside of the city are starting to wake up and realise that actually things are really happening now.
How difficult was it that the development of the station and of the shopping area was being done around a working station? 170,000 people a day go through there. You couldn't sort of, it wasn't like nice new piece of land, right,
No.
off we go.
Really tough to keep the public going through it. We also had public going through Grand Central as well, not just the station. So the station had to operate as if it was 100% capacity, and it was. There wasn't. People were squeezed through about a third of what the station is currently now. So you know, quite a small space, but it worked, and I think it was like that for a couple of years before we've now opened it. So you now got something which is way bigger than Euston, and people are just stopping and enjoying it. I probably like you. I wandered through it, and people just stop and look. I've never really seen that in a train station, but they're normally rushing to get a train.
No, it has made major changes. I mean, in theory, it's been in planning for 5 years or in the build for 5 years, but I'm sure the whole thing's been talked about much longer than that, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been talked about for probably at least 10 years. I think the ambition to change Palisades, improve the station, has been on the cards for a long time. And I think in the early days, it was a view that actually improve the station, which was always the council's and the Network Rail's ambition, and then probably frankly a lick of paint on the Palisades, and not much more, because you know Bullring was sort of live and kicking, and it needed something big to.
Because the old
generate
Palisades got a very 60s look about it, hadn't it?
Yeah, it's very tired. Although millions of people went through it because of where it sat. It, you know, it was the journey into the station. But it wasn't a great experience.
So they first thought about this 10 years ago, and it's effectively been on the go for 5. When were you brought in then?
18 months ago.
Is that all?
Yes.
Oh my word.
Yeah, so I picked up...
I'm thinking there you were 7 years ago with a sheet of paper, and right, okay, off you go, Richard.
We've made some changes, but they're pretty modest because you've got what you're dealing with as an existing building.
Yeah.
So there's only so much you can do, but detail changes have been made, and they continue to be made.
So when you were called up, you knew you got 18 months, did you?
Yeah.
That's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's about making the experience amazing, and pulling all the strings together. So not just working out what the station's doing, and the timing of that, and the implications of that, but actually making the shops come to life, and making the best we could do in terms of new shops, and new brands coming into the marketplace.
You probably can't tell me any specifics, but were there any sort of major issues or setbacks along the way in this 18 months, or has it all run fairly smoothly?
No, building projects are always a challenge. There's always something. Whether it's the legacy of the old structure, which has always been a problem. Largely 1960s built. You can imagine everything that goes with that in terms of.
Does that include asbestos, for instance?
Yeah. You get that, and equally, the steel structure, because you're putting more load onto it, because you're building a shopping centre on top of it, a new one, with all the requirements, etc., and the way that you need to put in plant and air handling kit and so on. But actually putting people through the building, keeping it live, that's a challenge in terms of health and safety. And fire risk. So that's probably one of the biggest ones.
How long was your average to-do list per day?
I don't know. Pages. It doesn't go away. Yeah, it's pages.
As fast as you tick one off, then there was another one coming on the other end.
Certainly the last few days, the list has probably got bigger than shorter.
I was about to say the last few days, because as I said right at the start, when you first came in, we think it was 3 to 4 months ago, and you said as we get towards the end, there'll be about 1,000 people working around the clock. How many were there in the end then?
I think we peaked about 3,000.
3,000?
Yeah, that includes all the fitters for the shops, which is a small army. And now, of course, you've got people who are branding the shops and putting all the goods and all the things that people are going to buy. So it's been a big, long process. And then you've got the construction team working alongside those people. So it's a big logistics issue.
Because you must have to have a very organised and tidy mind to do a job like this.
You've got to be a bit tunnel vision, but you've also got to be a little bit, look to the left and the right because you'll miss things. But you've got to keep your eye on what we're here to do. Otherwise, you'll get too distracted. And that goes for other people that work with me on this project. You know, you've got to, you see the target, you've got to go for it. But say things come in from the side and all over, and you've got to deal with it.
I mean, you can tell me now, come on, was there ever a moment when you thought, A, why did I take this on, and B, it'll never happen on the 24th of September?
In my sleep, probably.
Yeah. I mean, did it ever keep you asleep at night?
Yeah, especially now, yeah.
Yeah.
And my colleagues are the same. You know, people are grabbing 3 hours sleep, and it's been that way for a couple of weeks. It's really intense stuff because people are passionate about it and they will want it to be amazing. So it does keep you awake.
You also ever think how much, you know, you keep seeing these headlines, 400 million, 600 million, whatever it was for the whole development of the station. Do you ever think, I'm the development director of all of this? Wow, what a lot of money.
It sounds crass. You have to ignore that. You know, you have to ignore that. Yes, you've got to make sure that you're being responsible and accountable, and you don't overstep the mark. And we're all there to do that. But it doesn't. That's not on top of my mind at all. Far from it. It's you know, we've got to create an amazing experience, and that's what it's about, customer experience.
You've clearly got this job because he's sitting there, can I tell you, he's so cool. It is unbelievable. Because I suppose whatever you do, whatever you plan and prepare for, there's going to be something crop up on the day that nobody got, oh yes, we hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, I guess it's a few of our jobs to try and think of everything, but something will happen. And you just got to react to it and deal with it.
So do you and all those around you, do you have a great sort of typed list tomorrow and tick it off as the day goes on? Yeah,
I've got a pretty full schedule of times when we meet and then just have a check-in and make sure that the wheel's still spinning and everything's going okay.
Because you've got three things tomorrow. You've got guests, important guests, no doubt. You have got the media, important or otherwise. And of course you've got first people through the door, haven't you, about 10 o'clock?
All about the same time, which is interesting. Right. So we get going really from, I think, sort of 9 o'clock when sort of media are around, and then we've got to start really thinking about VIP guests who are there to sort of celebrate the opening, and then it really does kickstart at sort of quarter to 10, to get the right time, quarter to 10, 10 o'clock when we'll let people in, as it were. Yeah.
So not a lot of sleep for you tonight. What time are you going to be there tomorrow, do you think, in the morning?
I will be there from at least 6 o'clock. I'm on sort of very boring. I'm on duty until technically all the way through, but I'm going to take a few hours away from about sort of 1 in the morning and then come back about sort of 5:30, 6, just as sort of the final pieces before we sort of are ready to go. So yeah, final checks.
When the first... I nearly said passengers. I'm thinking of the station, when the first shoppers come through that door, are you going to stand back and a huge sigh of relief and pass them the champagne?
Not then, although I think privately we'll go fantastic. I guess what I'm looking for is the reaction. I'm looking to see how they feel about it, because when I try and do these projects, my first thing in my mind is, what does it feel like? What does it feel like as a paying customer to be in this space, in this environment? So I'm looking for their reaction to see if it's really sort of got to them.
So are you a sort of secret shopper wandering around incognito and just listening to people?
I do a lot of that, yeah. Actually, on the day, we'll be doing a lot of walking around, sort of getting a sort of measure of what's going on, sort of testing the temperature to see if people are happy, if the buzz is there, the excitement's there. So we do a lot of that because that's part of our remit for checking and rechecking and making decisions.
Because I suppose until people actually get in, for all the words, for all that's written, for all that's said, for all that's been done, it's actually down to the people who are going to come in and spend their money, isn't it?
It's all about them, yeah. First of all, it's all about the shops, but then it's how they talk and relate to the paying customers. So yeah, it's about their experience.
And as we say, it's about 10 o'clock, isn't it, when they're going to be in there tomorrow? And
Yeah.
hopefully they're going to come on the train, and so they don't have far to go, do they?
Yeah, I think we should. I think have a look at the website
Yeah.
because I think that obviously for a live update, and we're doing it all morning,
Yeah.
which is great because of the roads. The roads can be busy, and look at the way you want to travel. Come by train if it works.
Grand Central, of course, is not a new name. It's New York Stations, everybody knows. How did anybody come up with this name? Was that any part of your brief, or was it before you got involved?
It's before my time, but it was put out as I think the term was a focus group. So we kind of put it out and asked people to vote and come up with names, and that came out as the winning name. I think there was some semblance actually that had a relationship with a station years and years and years ago in terms of that's what where it started. But actually, the final vote was a focus group.
It's a good name, though, isn't it? I mean, it's a good, strong selling name. So, I mean, the key thing it's just crossed my mind is that tomorrow, or Friday, is the 25th, isn't it? So that is 3 months away from Christmas Day. So in terms of that, this is prime time to be starting the centre, isn't it?
Yeah, if you can put a date in the map when you start these things, you aim for September in a shopping centre world, because that's perfect for all those shops to sort of have a run in for Christmas. And Christmas is coming earlier because of things like Black Friday, which is getting sort of more synonymous now with this country. So that's when Christmas kind of starts. So they need that run in. So September's a really good month to open a shopping centre.
And I suppose once the whole thing is there and up and running, there will, from you and others, be a monitoring period, won't there?
Yeah, you've got to keep your eye on it. So yes, we'll have opened the gates, as it were, but a lot of work to do. I think there'll be a number of us who will be around for several months beyond the opening tomorrow, just to finish things off, check things. Things haven't gone quite according to plan, and that's really essential because it's kind of iterative. It keeps going. Things happen, and you've got to be around to deal with them.
And I guess your experience from other projects will have told you the sort of things that might crop up.
Yeah, every scheme's different, but you can sort of forecast what might go wrong because it's a shopping centre, and it's a customer experience. So it'll need some time to bed in. It'll need some time for people to get used to it, or how they use it. And we might have got a few things, in our minds. We think, they're going to do that, and people do something different.
I know that when new houses are built, then somebody has to go in and go around and give it the okay, risk assessment, health and safety, all of that. That must be some job in a development like this.
Yeah, someone's going to have a very long list, hopefully not too long, but they'll have a list on a piece of paper on a computer somewhere, which will say, right, we need to go and remedy that, change that, finish that, and that's part of the job. So yeah, that takes time, but equally you don't want to leave it too long, because the longer you leave it, more people start to move on to other projects, and then you lose momentum. So it's important we keep focused. And
as you said earlier, you will be around there as a secret shop around with your little list just to see what there is. Because I suppose you and all those around you who've got to make the decisions, you're getting by on adrenaline now, aren't you?
Yeah, I think a few of us are. It's really starting to get very exciting, and we're talking about the sort of lack of sleep, but you just sort of push through it, and actually you're still pretty wired and energised about the whole experience. So.
Because for all the people who've lived with this, I mean, you've been with it for 18 months, I mean, it's been your life for 18 months. There is a buzz about it. Obviously, you are tomorrow going to look at something and think, this is partly my baby, and hopefully you're going to feel pretty good about it all. Yeah,
I think it's, we were talking earlier, I think it's hopefully going to be probably one of the best experiences, although biggest challenges that I've been involved with. So I hope it'll be an amazing day, and everyone enjoys it, and I'll be doing my secret squirrel shopper for all those messages coming out of people, and hopefully they'll have a great time.
Because you said earlier that you have been involved in similar things, and in fact in bigger projects, but nothing quite like this.
No, I think this is unique. I think it doesn't. We talk about numbers and money and size. It doesn't really matter. It's about, I think, from our perspective, the people that sort of try and do these things, it's about the challenges, and it's the journey. And then actually I think putting a shopping centre on top of a live railway station is a first. So I think it's going to be I think you've got the reflection will be, okay, we've achieved something that no one really expected.
When you got involved 18 months ago and somebody said, oh, it's a shopping centre on top of a railway station, did you think it is?
Well, I knew about it. I was aware of it, and I knew that there had. I was aware also of the John Lewis added element to it, which really changed the whole scene. But I probably didn't appreciate at that time just the level of complexity about the interface and the relationship with the station, keeping it live, all the issues we talked about in terms of the structure. I really didn't get a handle on that. It soon starts to sink in, and then you recognise what you're up against.
How much do you have to know about what goes on in terms of the build, or are you just there as I say, you're in charge of the whole project? But do you actually need to know anything about what people do to make it happen?
Yeah, absolutely. My job is to know something about everything, and I know more about certain things than other things, but my job is to know about everything. So whether it's media or whether it's marketing or construction, I need to get involved with it. So yeah.
So in terms of the media and the publicity tomorrow, we've already said that the station got a very good write-up from everybody, I think, without exception on Sunday. There'll be a lot of people there tomorrow with their notebooks, pens and microphones and cameras, won't there?
Yeah, there will. I'm not sure how many. We know the media list. What we don't know about is the customer list. And it will be interesting just to see people understand the difference from the station to Grand Central, and actually they're separate, but actually they're integrated. I think people have seen the roof, but they need to come back and now look at it from the upper level, as it were, that higher level that you can see, and get a feel of that. So I think the media have tracked this, and they're now waiting for stage 2, and I think they'll be very excited.
Because I mean, I know that through websites and all sorts of other methods, you've kept them very involved, haven't you? Because I suppose it's equally important to that they say what's going on rather than, oh yes, there's a bit of building going on down the road.
Yeah, they need to sort of go with us on this as much as possible. Obviously, there are key times when they can get involved, and there are milestones on the way in terms of, whether it's breaking ground or finishing structural watertight or whatever, all the things we celebrated on the way. And then really just understanding about the journey and the timelines and when certain things are going to happen. So they're not strangers to us, but it's important also that we introduce them to certain events at the right time, and then and then the picture unfolds and they understand the whole process.
And as we've said, it doesn't kind of like just end, does it? Once it's open, it isn't, oh, well, that's it, we've done it. It goes on for some long time, obviously. Yeah,
it goes on, and actually, the reality is tomorrow it turns into a live trading asset, and it's something that comes to life. So it takes a different dynamic. So, there is that transition now from what was a building site into a real life, energised, active, hopefully massively successful shopping centre.
Did you, when you took your degree, ever think that you would be involved in something like this?
No, absolutely not. I thought it would be, I didn't know what it would be, and when you're sort of young and naive, you sort of think, well, it'll be something